Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Philadelphia. I'm your host, Tommy McIntyre Jr. Well, the Eagles lost a tough one on Sunday, 24-23 against the Detroit Lions. We'll have them, as well as the Philadelphia Flyers, are beginning to start their season. We'll be talking all that and more coming up.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
All right, well, it was a tough one on Sunday for the Eagles. A loss that not many of us expected, especially coming into a next stretch of 8-10 games that is going to be really tough for the Eagles. Who joining me today? Josh Abrams once again coming in to talk a little Eagles as well as Flyers, and Elvis Chalakis coming back to talk some Eagles. Thank you guys so much for coming on. So let's get right into it. We can get the graphic up of the game summary. And it was a tough one. They started off really poor, the Eagles defense especially. Coming off a bye week, they just didn't look good at all in that first half, giving up 21 first half points. And it was definitely something that we didn't expect. Last week, a lot of us had the Eagles winning. Some of us had Eagles winning handily. And when you look at the stat line, Darren Sproles had a solid game, and so did Ryan Matthews, except obviously with that critical fumble at the end. And the defense really did not play well that first half, and that was critical. Josh, what did you see in the game that was a huge reason why the Eagles were not able to pull this one off?
Well, what I saw was that the Detroit Lions set the tone early. They came out and they punched us in the mouth early, and they got off to that 14-0 lead, and it just seemed like we couldn't recover from that early deficit. Obviously, we turned it up a little bit in the second half, and even before the half. But as I just said, once we got down early, it just seemed like we couldn't get back in front. And even when we did, we gave the Lions the game with that fumble at the very end.
Elvis, same question to you. Was it just the fumble at the end that was such a devastating blow, especially when we had the lead, we came back in the second half? Or do you think it was also the penalties that were really critical? Some may even say the refs did not do a good game. What do you think the deciding factor was in this game?
I mean, one note that I want to say before I analyze the game is that it's a good thing we filmed this show on the Thursday, because most of the anger and the stress that we exhibited on Sunday is gone, and we're already done with that game, and we're all moving on to the next game. But it's more than just Matthews' fumble that messed up the game. It was the penalties that was unexcusably the referees. They were doing so many mistakes. Ryan Matthews' fumble was just one of those. He doesn't deserve all the blame, but he deserves some of the blame. Doug Peterson shouldn't have called a sweep on that play with the fumble, in my own opinion. And in my own honesty, I mean, the defense, they took a half to woke up, and by the time they woke up, we were already down by 11 points. So I mean, it's nice that the defense woke up and the offense is making plays and actually came back and found a way to win. This is not a characteristic that I saw in last year's Chip Kelly's team. Doug Peterson has really believes in this team, and we almost found a way to win. And without Ryan Matthews' fumble, we would be talking about how the Eagles are 4-0, but we can't win them all, I guess you could say.
I like, Elvis, how you mentioned the actual fact that we came back, we stayed in the game. We haven't really seen that over the years. Usually, if the Eagles don't get off to a strong start, they don't really come back over the last couple of years, especially with Chip Kelly. So that was good to see, considering the fact that they just didn't play a good game. They just did not come out well. Obviously, that Andy Reid pedigree of playing really well off byes didn't come over with Doug Peterson. Yeah. But focus back on the defense, Josh. They gave up 24 first half points, and they did let Matthew Stafford just do everything against them. It seemed like they just were not prepared against his ability to move off away in the pocket and throw balls on the run. What did you see on that defensive side, especially in that first half?
Honestly, I think I saw just a little bit of rust, especially coming off the bye week. It kind of surprised me even that we were able to stop Ben Roethlisberger and arguably the best offense in the entire league 2 weeks ago. And then we go into a Detroit team that's 1-3, and all of a sudden we can't stop Matthew Stafford, who essentially doesn't really have any weapons. So I was just very disappointed and more shocked than anything that we were playing so awfully in the first half, specifically the first half, obviously, as you said. So yeah, that was my take on it.
Yeah, Elvis. The defense seemed like they just didn't have a game plan for the way Stafford was able to pick them apart in that first 2 quarters. What did you see that they just weren't able to bring over, especially from that great Pittsburgh Steelers game where we absolutely just got to Ben Roethlisberger all the time and were able to halt them?
I mean, Jim Schwartz came back to Detroit after being their head coach, and it's almost a bittersweet ever since we lost that game. But there was something about the defense that seemed strange. They weren't the shutdown defense that we saw 2 weeks ago against Pittsburgh. They were running up big plays from Stafford to Riddick to Golden Tate were making plays, and it just seemed like we weren't getting coverage. We weren't covering their wide receivers. Riddick was wide open on a few plays, and it just seemed like the defense just fell asleep. And then they woke up in the second half, and surprisingly, they only let up 3 points and 45 yards in the second half, which is amazing compared to the first half stats. But if we want to win games, the defense has to at least help us out a little bit because, it's just
they were doing so well. I mean, they were the best defenses in the league in the first 3 weeks. I mean, they gave up no touchdowns, and then first 2 touchdowns of the season they gave up were back-to-back. Yeah. So it was definitely shocking to see. I think the rust was definitely a factor for what they were able to do in the second half. But let's move over to the offense, particularly Carson Wentz, a person that was always been feeling a lot of praise, especially before the bye week. He was able to put up 25 out of 33 for 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, and obviously that last critical interception with the last 1 minute 30 in the game. Josh, what did you what did you feel that Carson Wentz did well in this game? It seemed like he actually played well until that last interception.
As he's been doing in the first 3 games of the season, or at least in the first 3 games, he played with poise, he played with confidence, and he played, he did well under pressure up until the last play. Personally, I don't think he shouldn't have gone for long on the very last play of the game just because they had so much time left. They could have done little plays, 10 yards up the field. But overall, even with the interception, I still think Carson Wentz was still, he was still pretty solid, and I still rely on him more than anybody on our team right now.
Elvis, same question to you. Carson Wentz has really put up some solid stats early in this season. Was able to get another 2 touchdowns. What did you see from him? Obviously, he was not the reason we lost that game. No. What did you like from him, and what did you actually think he could do a little better? Because he did have 2 delay of game calls, which I did think was shocking to see from him. So what else do you think he can improve on? What did you like?
I mean, Carson Wentz, basically what Josh said. He showed poise, he showed confidence, he showed a lot of accuracy as well. And he is far from the reason of why we lost the game. I mean, it is also nice, in my own opinion, to get that first interception out of the way so he can actually focus more on different key plays and just not be like, oh my God, I have to throw my first interception. Just take that pressure out here and just focus on the game overall. And I personally think that it was a nice challenge for Carson Wentz to be in a situation where he was down and he has to lead the team down the field with no timeouts at all, with 1:30 left on the clock. So I'm guessing that's like another lesson to him in his rookie career, that he will have more games like these, that he has to drive the team down the field and possibly lead them to victory. And like Josh said, I think we could have done a few plays, gone out of balance, and probably gotten to field goal range because Caleb Sturgis was on fire that game, and he could have nailed the game winner there. But, I wasn't really the play wasn't really too controversial in my own opinion, but it would have been nice if Aguilar would have actually tried to catch the ball and be more aggressive, in my own opinion.
Yeah, I think the thing we haven't really, we talked a little bit about Ryan Matthews, obviously is a guy that heard a lot of controversy, especially early on this week after the loss. Putting the ball in the wrong hand, that last play, fumbling on the sideline. Really, after reviewing the play, it looks like it actually hit Kelsey out of bounds, and it should have been a dead ball in all seriousness. But the refs, like we mentioned, really did not seem like they had a good game. The one play early on in the game, they thought Connor Barman was downfield, 98, then they changed that. Then we wound up getting better position. Even the commentators had no idea what was going on as you were watching the game. But, yeah, speak a little bit about Matthews, Josh, before we get into the picks for this upcoming game against the Redskins.
Obviously, he helped us try and chip into that lead that Detroit got in the very beginning. And, it seemed like he played a very solid game up until he fumbled at the, our last possession.
Yeah, critical point of the game.
Second to last possession of the game, you're right. But overall, I was happy with what he did, up until that play. I always say close games, everything matters. And, you can score as many touchdowns as you want. You can, contribute as much as you want. But as soon as you make that critical play, that may as well be the turning point.
Yeah, definitely something he's going to have to work on. He always had that problem with fumbling, even when he was with the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
Still obviously has a problem. He did have the ball in the wrong hand. Elvis, you even criticized a little about that play call. There was some criticize of Doug Pearson's play call with some of those run plays towards the end of the game. But let's go on to next week. We got to regroup. This is a division game now. We're playing the Washington Redskins. We have our predictions. We can actually put those up for this upcoming game. Both of you guys actually took Darren Sproles with your MVP. He had a really solid game, I thought, on Sunday against the Lions. Josh, you have 24-21 Eagles. We'll start with you, Elvis, though. 27-20 Eagles. Why do you like the Eagles in this one, and why do you like Darren Sproles?
I think they will come back and shake off the rust that they had over the bye week and during the Lions game. Personally, even Washington fans said that their rush defense and their tackling is poor. So, of course, Mighty Mouse, in my own opinion, he can make a few moves here and there, and he could practically lead the team to the victory. He can carry the team on his shoulders, practically, in my own opinion. But it's going to be nice to see for this team to come back and to have like this sort of resurgence and confidence after this devastating loss that we had last week.
Yeah, definitely something we hope we can see improvement in. Josh, you also picked Darren Sproles. Why do you like him, and why do you like the Eagles in this one?
I think it always seems like no matter how great of a game Darren Sproles has or what he's had in the past, he seems to just come out of nowhere and just all of a sudden have 100 and something yards, and he's the reason why we win. And I picked the score to be very close just because it's a divisional game. For the most part, everyone knows who they're playing, and it just seems like that loss is going to make us tighter as a team.
Yeah, it's definitely something where I actually I'm happy we got a loss early on. I mean, I'm upset we lost because we have a really bad stretch coming on. I mean, we have the Redskins, Cowboys, Minnesota right after next week. That's going to be a tough one. A lot of division games, a lot of good teams in our conference we're going to have to play. But the fact that we lost, I think, puts us in perspective, I think. It lets us know that, look, we can't play around now. This is when it gets serious. But let's talk about who I picked. I took Zach Ertz. I think that he was hurt coming off an injury, didn't really have a lot going on last week. I think he steps up this upcoming week. Carson Wentz looks for him. I think they're going to change. Now that Carson Wentz has been in the league now for 4 games, league has some more tape on him. I think Doug Pearson's may change it up a little. What do you think, actually, Elvis, about Ertz this upcoming week?
He will be a presence because especially with Selleck and of some uses of Burton, in my own opinion, Ertz can really excel, and he's one of our top prime players. That one of the faces of the franchise, in my own opinion. And coming off the injury, I mean, I guess he can have like a resurgence and have like some kind of. I'm missing the word over here, but I think like he's like he can definitely. Oh God, I'm going
regroup.
Blank. Yeah, regroup,
resurge, come back, come back and have a solid game.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel you. I think that's actually going to do it for Eagles Talk. Actually, I want to thank Elvis for coming on to talk. I know this week we're praying that we can get a W here. It's a division game. Josh is actually going to stick around for some Flyers talk. So yeah, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back with Flyers talk.
Where are you headed?
Just gonna hang out.
It's a school night. With Gary and Todd?
Yeah?
Not sure about those two. I've been meaning to ask you. This is tougher than I thought. Is there any drinking going on in this crowd?
No?
I hope not, because alcohol can lead you to say things and do things that you really wish you hadn't. Isn't this what you're supposed to say?
I know.
So if any of your buddies ever pressure you to take a drink, just tell them you promised your dad you wouldn't. I'd do anything to keep you safe.
Okay, I will.
I hope this is working.
I promise. Love you too, Dad.
They really do hear you.
Brian.
Yeah?
So start the conversation even before they're teenagers.
Good idea.
For tips on what to say, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, no thanks, not my thing.
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Talk a little Flyers. I want to thank Josh for sticking around and talking on some Flyers. And now we're bringing Kevin Cook, co-producer here on Sports Talk. So let's get into it. We haven't really talked too much Flyers so far this year, but they just ended their preseason. They went 4-2-2, and now their first game coming up Friday, October 14th against the LA Kings away. Let's get into it. What do you think? What are you looking forward to this season for the Flyers? They finished last year, made the playoffs, just got in a great second half. We'll start with you, Kevin. What are you looking forward to this year with the Flyers?
There's a lot to look forward to the Flyers for. They just called up two of their young players, what we're going to talk about a little bit later, with Konechny as well as Provorov, some of the highest talented prospects that we have in our system.
Yeah, we can actually get those graphics up. It's just we're just draft pick pictures of them if you want to do that. Yeah, you keep talking if you want to.
So yeah, Provorov, he's 6'1", great size, and both of them are only 19 years old. It's pretty amazing. They both got him in the draft last year, so it's looking forward for these two prospects for the Flyers. And as far as the team, they're a young team, so a lot to look forward to with Schenn, Giroux, and it seems like a nice core talent with Voracek and Simmons in there as well, and even Couturier. So a nice young talent for the Flyers and a lot to look forward to as the season progresses.
Josh, he mentioned the young talent. We also have veterans here. Voracek is definitely a guy that's going to look to have a bounce-back year. Reports are that a lot of experts already think he's going to be a big, solid piece for the Flyers. What are you looking forward from him especially?
Well, I'm just looking forward to him to get off to a better start to the year. I know he finished pretty. He didn't finish strong, but he played well in the middle of the season last year. He finished with that injury. He played in the Hockey World Cup this summer, or I guess it was this past summer, and he says that he's already in mid-season form. So that's a very good sign, and I'm just looking forward to him to help contribute to try and get through this hump of the first 3 games of the season. So overall, I'm pretty excited for Voracek just because I'm expecting him. I'm expecting him to get off to a better start.
Yeah, and Josh is right there. The Flyers will need Voracek to start off this season well because he only finished with 11 goals last year, and that was kind of part of the reason why they started off so bad, and they had a fight to get back into playoff contention late last year. And if they're going to go up and they're playing some of the better teams, and they're all road games, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be a tough challenge, and they'll need Voracek to step up for them.
Yeah, they definitely are. It's a shame considering that he had such a great season 2 years ago, and then last year was definitely a down year for him. So we're looking for Voracek to come up big. Also, guys like Wayne Simmons and Giroux, also veteran pieces. What are we looking from them? Obviously, it's been pretty much always smooth sailing for Simmons. He always seems like a guy you can rely on. Is that a guy that you definitely are hoping this year can bring the same type of energy he always does every year?
Yeah, definitely. Simmons actually led the team in goals last year, and he's that guy on the power play. He goes in front of the net, and he gets a lot of goals just because of the tip-ins. And with players like Giroux and Voracek, and even Ghost now, he's going to have a lot of chances to tip the puck in, as well as just they're going to feed him the puck down low, and he's going to have the chance to make some turns and close shots and good chances for the power play unit. So for the season, Simmons is pretty crucial, and he should have another good year for them.
Now, Josh, we mentioned Giroux a little bit. He did also play in the World Cup. He was on the Canadian team that won. What are you looking from him? He obviously is a guy that over the years has been the captain. He's been a guy that you look for. He's always been up and down, though, but he consistently figures it out for the most part.
Right.
Are you looking for that leadership, especially in a team that has these young guys we've talked about?
Of course. Drew is the only player on the team that played on the team that went to the Stanley Cup in 2010. He's the remaining player. I think it all starts with him. He's our captain. He's our leader. He might not be as skilled as some of our younger guys. He might not still have a lot in the tank than he did back in 2010. But I'm still expecting him to lead this team to basically the same, hopefully the same success, maybe better than we did last year.
Now, talking on the other side, the defense, Radko Gudas actually got suspended for the first 6 games for an interference call in the last preseason game against the Bruins. What do you look for in the defense, Kevin, this upcoming year? Obviously, that's going to be critical in front of the goalies. We're going to talk about Mason and Neuwirth, who are battling it out. So what do you look for the defense for this year, Kevin?
Well, just as I was saying earlier, I mean, Provorov, he's going to be a big part of this defense, and it's actually huge that we're bringing him up now to fill in partially for Gudas early on in the year. But, I mean, you just look for continued growth with Ghost and hope that he continues to play the way that he did last year. And then past that, you're just looking for consistent play from other players on that defense. And we have a lot of defenders that we can mix and match, like McDonald, as well as Straight still with the team, and Delzato. So hopefully they can find some players that can play nice together and then move forward and pair them as well as with Ghost and Provorov for the future.
Now, obviously, I mean, this is another year where we have to deal with the fact that arch rival Pittsburgh Steelers were able to win the Stanley Cup last season. The cream of the crop, obviously, in this division once again is Tampa Bay Lightning and the Pittsburgh. Did I say Steelers? I mean Pittsburgh Penguins. I apologize for that. Pittsburgh Penguins. I wish we beat the Penguins like the Eagles beat the Steelers. What was I going to say to you, Josh? What do you look for in this division? Obviously, the Penguins are a team that's going to be really good this year, probably again, as well as the Lightning. How do you think we're going to battle against them, and how we can match up?
Well, I really think it's going to be a dogfight. Tampa Bay was the Stanley Cup finalists in 2015, and then they were an Eastern Conference finalist, losing to the Penguins in this past year. So obviously, with the Penguins, it always seems like it's a huge battle. It's never easy against those kind of teams that have had success in the recent years. But I think if we can get all of our pieces back together, gel better as a team within the first maybe 10, 15 games, I think we'll be in good shape to be able to, maybe sneak in and, defeat those powerhouses.
Kevin, quick prediction. We got the first game against the LA Kings. Do the Flyers win first one?
I don't think so. It's away, so it's kind of I think it's going to be the Kings' first home game as well, and the Kings are coming off a loss, so I don't really think that they have a shot.
I need some positivity now.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
All right, that's going to do us for Flyers talk. Let's get into some Fast Five, though, and talk Flyers as well, but also some Eagles and so forth. Josh, let's start with you. The Eagles had 2 TDs last week. Do you think they will have more or less 2 TDs, especially in this critical game?
Well, I did predict that they would get 24 points. I'm going to still stick with it. I think as Elvis said earlier in the show, their run defense, specifically their front 7, is very weak. It seems like they've struggled to tackle some of the key running backs on their opposing teams. So I think they're going to get maybe 3 or 4.
All right, I like it. All right, to you first, Flyers question. We didn't talk a lot, but Mason, Neuwirth are in a battle now for really a contract year, honestly, for these 2 goalies for the Flyers. Who is going to get more wins this season?
I'm going to have to go with Neuwirth this year. Last year, Mason had more, but it was only because he had started more games, and when it came down to it in the playoffs, Neuwirth had won the only 2 playoff games for the Flyers, so I'll stick with him.
Let's do another one for Kevin, one more for the Flyers. We actually talk about the fact that they had 96 points last year. We're just able to get in the playoffs, 41 wins if you add it all up. I still don't like the whole losses and the overtime. That's something for another thing with the points. But over under 96 points for the Flyers this year, especially to get in the playoffs.
That's a tough one. I'll go with the over, only because I think that some of these young players are going to come up and do some damage for against opposing teams for the Flyers.
And you think that will be enough to get in the playoffs? Do you predict they'll get in?
Yeah, I think that, again, they're going to sneak in probably down 7th, 8th, but I think they'll get him.
I know I just slipped another question there, but I feel it was critical. All right, back to you. Eagles, you pick Sproles. How many yards does he get this week?
I'm predicting Darren Sproles to get, I'd say, 120 yards.
Wow, that would be big. Is that receiving and rushing or just rushing?
I'd say combined.
Okay.
I'm not expecting 120 yards.
Yeah.
Definitely not receiving, obviously, since he's a running back. But I'm expecting him to break out. I'm expecting him to just just come by surprise as he always does. I don't know how teams don't watch out for him as much, but yeah, that's my prediction.
All right, let's talk something we haven't said much about, but the 76ers are still playing in the preseason right now. Everyone's really hurt, though, unfortunately, right now. I mean, Joel Embiid, the one guy that's been hurt these last years, is healthy. He's minutes restriction.
Thankfully for that, yeah.
He's had a 12-minute restriction. It looks like he's coming into now a 15-minute restriction in the preseason, what Brett Brown just said earlier in this week. How many minutes do you think he plays opening night?
I heard earlier that they were saying probably around 20 to 24 by that time. So I'll stick with that. I'll say he'll probably log about 20 minutes opening night.
And we'll ask the same thing to you, Josh. How many minutes, or for that matter, how many minutes do you think he should start? How about that?
Well, Kevin, you said 20 minutes for
Yeah,
Joel Embiid. I think that's good. I think that's like probably the most you'd want him to play, because with how severe those injuries have been, you would want to ease him into NBA action rather than putting him out there for 30, 35 minutes. So I think 20, maybe a little bit less, a little bit more would be good for Joel Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it because I think you want this guy just to be on the floor. I mean, that's really, he's a critical piece. We've liked what we saw in the preseason from him. Hopefully we can get some guys back. Jaleel Okafor still hasn't got on the court yet. They're still holding off that knee injury, which really is shocking how long it's taken. It doesn't seem like it was that serious at first, and now they're holding him off, which is fine.
I mean, a little bit longer.
But hopefully he gets on the court opening night. They're really holding him out for that, as well as Nerlens. He's been out too now with a groin injury. But I think that's going to do it for this show. I really appreciate you guys coming on, Josh, Kevin, as well as Elvis. You can also check us on Twitter, on Facebook. You can get us on TV. We show on every Thursday at 10:30, so please check us out. You can follow me on Twitter as well as the rest of the guys. Our Twitter handle was right on the bottom of the screen. I really want to watch the games, right? Watch the games for the Eagles this upcoming Sunday, and we'll be talking all that and more next week. So thanks so much.